Hi everyone, this is Andy from the Purple Rock Podcast. You're about to hear our interview with the winner of Survivor Cagayan, Tony Vlachos. But before we begin, I have a few notes. First, since Tony was accommodating enough to give us over 2 hours of his time, we're splitting this one up into 2 different shows. That'll ease your download times. So look for part 2 when you're done with this one. Second, we used a different recording process this time, so the audio quality might be a little less than what you expect, but that'll save us a lot more time delivering it to you. Also, since this was a new process, we had a couple glitches. The first is that we lost about 2 of the first 7 minutes, but we more than made up with that with the rest of the show after that. The second is that you'll hear a weird honking noise coming from John's recording that we apologize for. It only happens a few times, so let's just pretend he's trying to talk llama or something. Finally, while we usually keep the show family-friendly, this episode is decidedly not. There's nothing that should offend a normal adult, but you may want to avoid listening to this with kids present. So with that, let's start the show.
Okay, welcome to this special edition of the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. We have our last season's Survivor winner, Tony Vlachos, welcoming our first ever Survivor winner guest to the show. Tony, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. I'm a big fan of your show, and I'm glad to be on it.
Excellent. So I think the first question, since you've answered so many other questions and so many other formats, but what's life been like since you've won?
I mean, being that I have a newborn, I guess that took priorities in my life, so I really didn't even get a chance to enjoy my winnings just yet because, like I said, I have a 2-week-old baby that, so my priorities are at the family right now. They're taking care of the little guy and, constantly being on top of the little guy, making sure he's all right and he's fed and he's changed and he's just a comfortable little baby. And once he's a little older, then that's when the winning's going to set in. But for now, life is just beautiful with the family.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. You haven't even really had a post-Survivor experience at all because I know what that's like. The first few weeks of a baby is just basically a haze. And you have an older one, too, so you're probably busy with that, with the older one and then the baby. And, yeah, I don't envy you.
Yeah, no, it's really tough. The 15-month-old wants to climb on top of the bassinet, flipping the bassinet over with the little guy inside of it. It's just she throws the toys on top of him. It's chaotic in here. It's worse than being on Survivor.
So are you getting more than 40 minutes of sleep here, or is it island life all over?
Actually, I slept more on Survivor than I do here now.
I kind of figured you might have because Andy and I both have 2 kids as well, and yeah, I remember those days. Andy's are a little older than mine, but yeah.
I just
it's rough in the beginning.
There's nothing fun about it, man. And when they cry in stereo. It's unreal. it just goes right through you.
Yeah, I spaced mine out 4 years, but I didn't have to space it around a trip to an island, so I guess I had that advantage.
Well, how long is it going to be, Tony, before you let them watch Daddy's triumphant performance on Survivor?
Oh, they're probably going to be on the show before they get to watch me.
So Blood versus Water 5, Tony versus his young child.
Exactly. I wonder who I'm going to swear on to them.
It would be the real young lad.
Yeah.
So, jumping right into Survivor-specific questions, how long have you been a fan of the show?
I've been a fan, I guess, you know what? In the year 2000 is when I went into the police academy, and the year 2000 is when Survivor started. So I was watching Survivor, since I went into the police academy, which was the first season. This one has been on 2000. But, I missed a few seasons here and there. I'm not going to lie that, I missed a lot of seasons, actually. But I wasn't a diehard fan of it. I was a fan, and I watched it, but I never dissected the show. I just watched it for its entertainment purposes, and that was about it. But, again, as a fan, you get to see what mistakes people do, and you're like, why the hell would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
But from the couch you can say that. But then when I went into the show and I experienced the show, I'm like, wow, man, when you sit down and you watch it, it's totally different. You have no idea, what kind of chemistry people have on the island that you don't see. You have no idea, how frightening it is to go into tribal council. You have no idea how much your thought process is when Jeff's asking you questions and you're trying to think of how to evade his question because you don't want to, you don't want to give nothing away at tribal council, and you don't get to see all that. So, when you're there, there's so many emotions that you're feeling inside as a player that the fans don't get to see that. They might see, you're answering questions after it's edited, but you don't see how it really feels. So, it's a big difference between being a fan and being on the actual show. So it was definitely different.
So you're suggesting that when we're listening and commenting on a podcast, we might not know what we're talking about all the time.
No, you know what? You guys are great, man. Based on what you see, you guys are great, man. You guys are awesome. And that's the thing, like everybody, the bloggers, all the podcasts, you guys are only basing everything that you say on what you see. And what you see is not totally, but it's very different from what really is going on the show. There's a lot of things that the way they edit it, it's like, wow, man, how the hell did they do that? How do they make it look like A when it's really B? It's.
All right, so this is the part of the recording that we lost. In it, we talked to Tony about his ranking 8th in the Rob Hides the Podcast Top 20 Survivors list, which he was pretty happy with. And then we begin to discuss Spencer's relative popularity with the fans and how much editing was involved in the perception of him versus Spencer. So we apologize to Tony for the lost audio, and we'll jump back into it now.
Keep surviving and staying alive as long as he did, because why did he survive longer than Jeremiah? Why did he survive longer than Tasha? Why did he survive? You know what I mean? So you got to say, wow, he's got to be doing something. And what he was doing was he was playing a great social game. And playing a great social game, though, unfortunately for the fans, they don't get to see big moves because there is no big moves for him to make because of the situation he was in. So right. That's why I do give Spencer a lot of credit for making it as far as he did go.
Do you think a big part of his social game was with you? Like, you guys seem to get along out there. Do you think maybe that was part of what helped him, is that, he proved that he was somebody you could work with?
No. The only reason I worked with Spencer, not because of him being a great social player, but it's because my team was terrified of him. So as long as my team was terrified of him, I was going to use him as a buffer. And that's exactly what I was doing, because my team did not see me coming because they had their blinders on and they had tunnel vision. And all they were focused on was, we got to get rid of Spencer, we got to get rid of Tasha. And I was like, okay, that's great. You guys keep looking at them while I keep killing you guys from within.
Yeah, because that's basically what freed you up. You could keep, backstabbing your own alliance, but they wouldn't ever turn on you because they were scared of the other.
Yes, exactly. They would, and that was my whole thing. I guess we'll get there. That was my whole thing with the Jeffra vote. Instead of voting off Spencer, I went after Jeffra. No, yeah, exactly. Instead of, it was Tasha won the immunity, so the vote was Spencer. And I said, you know what? If I get rid of Spencer, then what happens? Then they're going to get rid of me because I'm the next biggest threat besides Tasha. And it was just the longer I kept Spencer, but again, timing is everything. You don't keep him all the way to final 2, you know what I mean? So you keep him as long as you can, and until you can make moves. And that was my whole thing was just timing, and it was just luck. That the timing was just perfectly timed out to where I got lucky and it worked.
And I gotta say that at that point in the game, I was really rooting for you. That was a terrifying moment when you kept 2 big threats in Tasha and Spencer, because, I understood your strategy. You told us afterwards that you were trying to keep bigger threats around, which, once we heard it, we were like, okay, that's pretty brilliant. But as I'm watching the show, I'm thinking, oh no, he's screwing himself here. You can't keep 2 threats. You just keep the 1 as a target. So even as I was watching it after hearing from your strategy, I was still scared that it was going to backfire.
Yeah, so the thing is, you can keep 2, you could keep 3, as long as they're in the opposing alliance. You know what I mean? If they're within your alliance, you can't keep 2. You want to just keep at least 1. you would try to, weed them out of your own alliance. But if they're on the other side, there's no problem because now you have numbers on your side that you can start dwindling down.
Right.
So that was the thing with me. I was like, you know what, 2 is better than 1 because if there's only 1, then my alliance wouldn't be that terrified of them. They'd be like, okay, there's only 1 person to go and there's 5 of us, so we can get rid of 3 more people on our side, and Tony's going to be one of those 3. So that's why it was better for me to keep 2 of them.
So, I think a big hallmark of your game is you were willing to take risks that others weren't, or that we were comfortable with. But when Spencer's still there at Final Four and he's only a few seconds away from winning immunity, were you a little scared at that point?
Like at that moment, I don't remember if I was scared or not. But I guess before that, when I was running through the scenarios, and had he won that, I still had that fake immunity idol that I was buffing. Mm-hmm. So I was still a little comfortable because of that, and that's why I kept playing that just in case Spencer won the 4, the Final Four immunity. So I had everything, like I went through a lot of scenarios in my head, and that was one part of the Trish vote off too. That's why I decided to get rid of Trish and not Cass, because I figured Cass has a better chance of helping me beat Spencer in the next challenge than Trish would. So there was a lot of things involved in the Trish vote off, because I could have definitely got rid of Cass, especially right after we were fighting with that Llama Talk stuff. I had the idol. I could have just got rid of her. It would have been very easy, but it wouldn't have been the smartest move for me.
So was Llama Talk one of the things that you thought about, like when you weren't sleeping at night? Just the way to perfect a llama impression?
No, that was spontaneous, man. Because, Cass was telling me all along how, Tony, you and I are the only ones with blood on our hands. You and I are the only ones that could, have a chance against each other. We go with anybody else to lose. So I was like, Cass, you know what? Perfect. You and I want you to the end. You want me to the end. This is it. I'm going to tell you exactly what Wu told me so I could let you know that I'm not planning anything sneaky behind your back to show you that I really want to go with you. What's that noise?
Yeah, I don't know either. Are you honking your horn there, John, or?
No.
That is bizarre.
Hey, John, is that you quacking like a duck? Somebody's quacking.
Yeah, and it didn't make the show, but we tweeted at Cass afterwards to clarify, because she mentioned in her intro interview that she was going to tell everybody she was an animal handler, and she must have actually done that on the show, right?
Well, that's exactly what she did, and she talked about having a pop, and she talked about having llamas. I heard her talking in the interview saying, oh yeah, she never mentioned llamas, but let me tell you, son, I don't even know what the fuck a llama is until she mentioned it to us, So there's no way you're going to see me acting like a llama. I don't even know what a llama is until she told me. She said she raised alpacas, she raised llamas, she dealt with reindeer. She was telling me all that stuff, and that's the only way that I came out with that, or else I would have never came out with that. And if she told us the truth, that she was an attorney, nobody would believe her anyway. We'd be like, get the hell out. You're no attorney. You don't even know how to talk to people. And as a matter of fact, that day that I told her that secret, and then I went to her and I said, what the hell are you doing? Why would you tell Wu this? She says, you think you're the only one that can interrogate people? And I'm looking at her and I'm like, what the hell? Do you even know what interrogation means? I'm telling you a secret.
Why would the alpaca trainer have to interrogate people?
Exactly. So that's why it was very believable that she was an animal handler and nothing more than that.
And someday when your kids are older, you'll watch Emperor's New Groove. You'll see what a llama is. It's a great movie. Your kids will love it.
Now I know. I did some Google images on it, and I'm like, wow, that kind of does look like Cass. There's a llama that has her glasses on. It looks just like Cass, man.
So we actually skipped over, we were talking about the top 8 thing. If you had to rank just, you don't have to go through a top 8, but just give us, 2 or 3 of your favorite players, besides yourself, of course.
Yeah, you know, who am I speaking to now, John or Andy?
This is John, sorry.
John, yeah. John, like I said, I'm really not a student of the game, so I remember who won, but I don't remember how they played. Like, I could remember Boston Rob because he was fresh. Who else do I remember? I remember Cochran because he was fresh. I remember Tyson because he was fresh. So I don't remember most of the winners, but when people talk about Kim Spanling, I do remember, yeah, she was pretty clever. She was slick. Boston Rob, he was clever. He was slick. Cochran played a great game. So Tyson played a great game. The only people that I can remember that I didn't think, deserved to win was over Russell, was Natalie. And when I seen Samoa, that was the first time I seen it. I was like, oh my goodness, man. Russell was being a dick to the people that he was, backstabbing and was, ruining their chance of $1 million. And you can't do that to people, man, when the stakes are that high. So, but still, to lose by default, because Natalie, I didn't think Natalie did anything in that game, But again, when I went on the show and I played the show and I seen how they edit it and I know how I played, I'm like, wow, man, editing has a lot to do with it. You like little Jeffra, for instance, they left out something that I thought was important that they should have showed for Jeffra, and one of them was the Cass and the Sarah fight. Jeffra is the one who ignited that fire between the both of them. And they didn't show that. They just showed the next day where Trish pulled the Cass to the side. But they didn't show that Jeffra started some shit between Sarah and Cass, and then Jeffra like moonwalked right out of that fight. And then I saw her and I was like, Jeffra, what's going on? She's like, listen, I just started Cass and Sarah fighting, and I think that's good. I think that's good for us. We can try to switch one of them. And she said that, and she's the one who started the fight. And they didn't show that. So I'm like, wow, man, they just totally took the credit away from Jeffra on that one. And stuff like that, and it makes you wonder, like, holy shit, did editing mess up Natalie? Did it have something to do with it? So you just never know. So I guess that's why just based on what you see on TV is the only thing you can go by. And based on what I saw on TV with Natalie, I was like, she shouldn't have won that. That's messed up.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, if Jeffra had finished Final Four, we probably would get that scene.
Yeah, you're probably right. But again, they should have showed, because, remember, Jeff kept, one of Jeff's biggest thing was, like, this is the season that everybody came out here to play. So guess what? Then show everybody was playing. Show it. So, and, it takes 2 seconds to show Jeff was starting that fight. And then Trish sealing the deal.
So let's go back to that moment, actually, because earlier in that episode, you tried to pull Sarah over, and did you believe her for a second that she was actually thinking about it? Because she did not seem like a very convincing liar for us.
No way, no how. See, the thing was, let me rewind it just a little bit to answer that question.
Yep.
When we were on the Solana tribe, when we did the swap, and we all made a pact. We were like, listen, guys, I know there's only 5 of us. We all said the same thing, but I have Sarah on the other side that I could probably flip. LJ says I got Jeremiah on the other side that I could probably flip. Jeffrey says I got Alexis on the other side that I could probably flip. So I was like, hey, guys, this is awesome. Us top 5, we're going to make it. We're going to flip one of those people there, and we're going to make it to the top 5. And that's why that top 5 shit came out when we won that challenge, because top 5 was in my head. The whole time I was in the salon, I was like, oh, my God, this is the top 5. Oh, my God, we're going to finally do it. And I meant it. I really wanted to go top 5 with these people. And, because we knew that our 5 was powerful. We knew we were going to make it all the way to the end because we had 3 other people on the other side that we could have flipped over if once we merged. And that was the plan. And that's why we were so excited because, a lot of people were saying, what the hell are you saying top 5 for when he's outnumbered? But that was the reason why, because we knew we had 3 other people that potentially would have came with us. So as soon as we got there, should I go into it? How the first thing that I did when we went to the merge?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So the first thing I had to do was, obviously, I had to pull Jeremiah to the side and try to talk to him about that clue I gave him. Remember that big clue I gave him?
We do.
I tried to frame him. Yeah, so,
of course.
I knew once we merged and he was still there, I knew that my lie was going to surface, so I had to make sure that I had a plan B for it. So what I did was as soon as we got, man, there's so much stuff that I have to go in chronological order. When I gave him that fake clue, they didn't show the part where I was telling him that, hey, Jeremiah, LJ wants me to tell you that he really wants to work with you, and we're looking forward to merge so we could all get together and we could be strong. And that's why I'm giving you this clue to the idol. So I played it off that LJ really wanted to work with him. I played it off like that was our plan to keep our team strong and keep Jeremiah safe by giving him the idol clue. Because I knew once we merged, and if he wasn't voted out, I knew once we merged, that was going to come back to me and he was going to, blow up my spot. So that's why I played it off that we were really trying to work with him. So when I did come back to him, I got to explain to him, hey, Jeremiah, listen, man, that clue that I gave you, it wasn't meant for you, man. I felt so stupid. That was for my tribe. I was supposed to give that clue to one of my tribe members, not you guys. So I messed up. And he was like, yeah, man. He was like, yeah, because that clue I already had it. I said, I know, man, because LJ really wanted me to help you, and I didn't even fucking realize what he was saying. I was just so excited that he said there was a hidden idol, and I wanted you to have it because LJ really likes you, and I played it off like that. And that's why, he believed it, and, he worked with me. He didn't blow up my spot there. So that was the first thing I did when I went back to, when we did the merge. Jeremiah was the first person I jumped on. And then it was back to work. It was back to Sarah. I pulled Sarah, and I said, Sarah, what's going on? And you pretty much, most of you guys pretty much, the fans saw it, TV. We watched it on TV, what went down with Sarah. And I really, really, really wanted to work with that girl at that point. I really did. but she was not budging. She heard the top five. She was complaining about that. I tried to convince her, and I said, Sarah, of course I was going to scream top five. It was us five in the Solana tribe, and we were very excited. We wanted to go to the end, but of course things change, and of course I want to work with you now that I'm here with you. And, I kept going on and on and on. She wasn't buying it. I was providing her a golden opportunity on a silver platter, telling her, because later on, there was a day or two later after I first talked to her, we knew that she was fighting with Cash. So I said, Sarah, whoever you want gone, I swear to you, I can promise you, we'll make it happen. If you want Cash gone, Cash is gone tonight. Just come over to our side. You have nobody with them. They just want you for a vote. At least with us, you have the original Braun. You have me. You have Trish. You have Wu. And, I tried to give her everything I could, and it was legit. It was sincere. She just wasn't having it. She was also saying when we did the raid that day, she said, Tony, but you didn't give me no eye contact. You didn't do nothing. And I was like, Sarah, how am I going to look at you? You have 5 other people that are staring me down. How am I going to give you any kind of eye contact? They would have voted you out the second I looked at you and gave you some kind of hope that when we come back, we're going to work together. I couldn't look at you, Sarah. So, so all of that added up, and Sarah said to like, yo, Tony's lying to me. He slipped. He's not going to come back. So what do I do? I try to lure her into going back to her tribe and trying to vote for me by telling her, hey, Sarah, listen, I'm very nervous. I got to try to I'm going to go make a fake idol right now. So what I do, I showed her how I was making a fake idol. I was taking the beads off the water bottle. I was taking the beads off the torch. I was cutting the rice bag. The rice bag was some kind of weird material. I was cutting that. It was like burlap. And I was telling her, that's how I'm going to make a fake idol. And she's like, why are you making a fake idol? Don't you guys have an idol? You or LJ? I said, you crazy? I said, we don't have no idol. If LJ had an idol, he would have played it that day we voted off Cliff because we made it look like he was going home. He doesn't have an idol. I don't have an idol. I need to go make one right now. I said, please, Sarah, you have to come with us. You have to come with us, or I'm playing my fake idol. I was playing it off like I was being dumb, like I was stupid, like I'm telling her my secret. But I was telling her that because I wanted her to go back to everybody and tell them, listen, let's vote Tony off because he doesn't have an idol. And that was my plan going into tribal council. But again, once you go into tribal council, you're never 100% sure. I was 75% sure that the votes were coming my way. So that's why I said, you know what? I need to be 100% sure. And the way I need to be 100% sure is pulling out my idol. And that's why I pulled out my idol. And once I pulled out my idol, you've seen everybody. They didn't show it on TV, but they were all grilling Sarah. Spencer was yelling at Sarah. He was like, Sarah, why don't you turn around and have a look at that idol? Because it sure doesn't look fake to me. And I was like, oh, shit. So in my head, I'm saying, wow, man, I was thinking 5 steps ahead, and it worked exactly like I wanted it to work. She did tell them I had a fake idol. They weren't going to vote for me. So now I'm saying to myself, okay, now I'm 100% sure they're not voting for me, which is perfect. It's better than 75%.
Yeah.
So when I went to Jeff and I said, Jeff, please validate this idol for me, I wanted to look at their expressions on their face. So when I was walking up there, I made it look like I was really playing my idol. I was like, yeah, Jeff, I want to play this. Can you please validate it for me? So when I'm looking at all of them, and I see the young lad with a shitty grin on his face, all happy, and I'm like, oh, what's going on here? This guy shouldn't be happy that I'm about to play my idol if they voted for me. So I knew right then and then that they did not vote for me for a fact, and that's when I made that spontaneous decision to say LJ. And I played the idol for LJ. I sacrificed myself, man. When you give your idol away and you have no protection, that's the scariest thing that you can feel at tribal council, man. It is so scary. And that's back to being a fan. When I'm a fan watching it and I see Malcolm or Russell or whoever pull out an idol, and I'm like, get out of here, just vote for him anyway. They're not going to play that bluff and vote for him. But guess what, man? When you're sitting in tribal council, you are not taking any chances of going home. You don't want to go home on calling somebody's bluff. So when you pull out an idol, people are going to steer away from you really fast.
Well, what's amazing is that all these things worked. LJ plays an idol for you. You convince Sarah. And then random luck. Cass decides to flip.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Before we got in there, let me rewind it again. Before we got in there, we already knew that Cass, Trish came up to us and told her, hey, listen, I told Cass we're voting for Sarah. Cass says she's going to put Sarah's name down regardless of how we vote. And that's why, I'm always pissed off when Cass says it was strategic, because it wasn't strategic by her own admission. She kept saying, I didn't care who you guys were going to vote for. I wanted to put Sarah's name down to show her that she's not the powerful player of this game, that she doesn't have all the power that she thinks. So she was telling us that. And when you're telling somebody that, it's like, yo, are you serious, man? How you were going to put this girl's name down without any guarantees that we were going to protect her, without any kind of talk like, okay, Cass, come with us and we're going to keep with you. We're going to stay with you till the end. Nothing. We told her nothing. And she told us, I'm a free agent. She was advertising that she's a free agent. I mean, you know, when you hear shit like that, it's like, come on, how can you even say you're a strategic player when you with your own admission, you're telling us that you were going to put somebody's name down because you didn't want them to think they had all the power, regardless of how the votes turned out in the end. So anyway, so when we went in there, we knew that Cass was going to put Sarah's name down. Well, not knew, but that was the impression that she was going to put Cass's name down. Sarah's name down. So again, obviously, we weren't 100% sure, else none of us would have played the idols. We would have just said, okay,
right.
Great, she's going to flip. But when I pulled out my idol, and everybody started fighting with Sarah, telling Sarah, hey, look at that idol. That doesn't look fake to us. So they started thinking that maybe Sarah's playing them out, you know? And that's when you started seeing Cass looking at her, you know, like just looking at her with that expression that she always has in her face. And I'm saying to myself, okay, you know, like again, so many things run through your mind. And I'm like, okay, good. They're hating Sarah. Maybe they'll all put Sarah's name down. You know, I don't know what was going to happen. But at that point, you know, I'm just happy that I created some kind of disturbance between Sarah and the rest of them because they were all hating on her, thinking that she was trying to double cross them, you know? They didn't believe her because once I pulled out the idol, they were like, all right, this girl was so adamant that you have a fake idol and here you are pulling out a real one. So, you know, it was kind of good that way. And that's why Cass, I also never got a chance to ask Cass, but I wonder if that was one of the reasons that really pushed Cass to say, you know what, I'm definitely voting Sarah now because she tried to lie to us, telling us that Tony had a fake idol.
That's interesting. Oh, go ahead, John.
So was that the moment where you were most nervous in the game? At what point in the game were you most scared that you were going home?
Oh, man, I would have to, well, besides the end part where it was me, Will, and Cass, besides that, I guess the biggest one would be the Morgan vote off. And, again, the editing didn't show that my main reason for the Morgan vote off was because she was a fourth beauty. It was LJ, it was Jeffra, it was Jeremiah, and then it was Morgan. Everybody wanted to vote off Tasha at that tribal. And I said to myself, if I get rid of Tasha, there's going to be 2 brains, 3 bronze, and guess what? There's going to be 4 beauties. At that moment, they were not getting along. But I didn't care what was going on for the moment. I cared on what was the potential of happening later on. So what happens in that moment has nothing to do with what's going to happen tomorrow or the next tribal council. So I did not want Morgan around because she was the 4th beauty. She was the safest one to vote off because we didn't think she had an idol and nobody would play an idol on her. And she had a fight with Cass. And Cass right there at that point, if she was a good strategic player, she would have went right back to her own team, the old team that she jumped ship on, like I did. Every time I jumped ship on my team, I went right back to them. Had she had done that, I would have been going home that tribal council. I was the most scared. And especially when, you know, that was the scene where I said I almost pooped on myself when I seen 4 votes come my way. If Cass was smart, she would have voted me off right then and then.
Yeah, that was the one chance, basically, because after that, you started getting idols. And
that was it. And you know what? And then in that tribal council, you had Jeff saying, wouldn't it be wiser to get rid of the biggest threat instead of someone like, let's say, Morgan? Because, you know, the talk was back and forth, Morgan, you know. And that's when I was like, oh, my God, what are you doing, Jeff? Why do you want me out of the game? That's what I felt. I'm serious. I was feeling that he was like pitching to get me out. Because he was saying, well, wouldn't this tribal be best to get rid of the biggest threat? And I couldn't believe it, man. I mean, you've seen it on TV too. He was saying that at that tribal. Yeah. If you watch it again, I don't know if you remember, but he was saying that. And I was sitting there with no immunity and no nothing. So all Cass had to do was go back to her.
Yeah, Jeff does that all the time, and it drives us insane that he basically tries to manipulate the game. I think he's really just trying to make a more entertaining show, but I can imagine it's got to be nerve-wracking.
Holy shit, man. I'm there and I'm shaking. I'm like, please, guys, don't listen to this guy. Please don't listen to this guy. And that's back to what I was telling you early in the beginning. It's like, you know, that's like one of the hardest things to do is try to think of an answer to give Jeff so he can leave you alone and you don't give nothing away.
Yeah.
So
well,
it's tough.
You could make the argument that maybe he was saying you should vote out Tasha, right? Because I think Spencer had the idol that night. So maybe that was the bigger play. Or, you know what, maybe him and the producers were really just trying to save Morgan, because there are reasons.
Well, yeah, but listen to this, man. When Spencer, again, I don't remember if they showed it, but in the live thing, in the live tribal council, Spencer was saying that Tony's a threat. And he was telling people, you know, you guys got to watch out for Tony. Every single tribal council we went to, Spencer would tell him I'm a threat, except for the ones where he voted with me. But every single other one, and that was the eye opener. That tribal council was the eye opener for me. And I said, you know what? It's time for me to make moves. And that was from that point on. I started making. That's when I turned my back on my own alliance, because I was really going to go strong all the way to the end with my alliance. But that was an eye opener for me. When I started seeing 4 boats come my way, I don't know if you remember, I put my torch down and all the torches fell. Remember that? That was remember that was the episode. That night I was fucking terrified. I was terrified because I'm saying these guys, the Minority Alliance right now, are advertising to my alliance like, hey guys, whenever you're ready to get rid of Tony, you guys know that we're ready because we want Tony out of the game. So that's when it opened up my eyes and I said, you know what? I need to start making moves now, because anytime, at any given point that my alliance wants me out, all they got to do is go to the minority and say, okay, guys, let's go for Tony today. And they would do it because they advertised. They advertised on the parchment that they want Tony gone. And that was it for me, man. That's when it just said, you know what? And that was the night that I didn't even sleep for 1 second. That was the night that I just stayed up all night just thinking. And I did poop on myself. You see the stains in the back. Remember that?
Yes.
But yeah, no, but that was it. That tribal council was the scariest for me. That was the most nerve-wracking one for me. And that's the one that really said, Tony, it's time for you to play. And that's when I started going back and thinking about how to get LJ out, how to break my promise, because we promised top five. And I said, you know what? Jury management is beginning for me right now, right here. How am I going to get LJ out without him hating me, without him saying that I stabbed him in the back? And that's when I came up with that, you know, the Wu lie, saying to LJ, I think paranoid that I'm scared that Wu has the idol. And that's why I did all that for jury management. You know, I didn't care, you know, I didn't care about getting LJ out. I cared about what he was going to think about me when he goes to the jury. And that's why I came up with the lie, to show him, like, oh, listen, man, you were going to turn your back on our lines first because you said you were willing to vote off Wu, and that's why I got scared of you, and that's why I broke my promise to you. And that's exactly what I told him at Tribal at the end. And that was another thing to keep going back to my alliance by telling my alliance, hey, listen, guys, this is what's going on. This guy was willing to break his promise and turn his back on Wu. He was going to blindside Wu, and that's the same way he would have blindsided any one of us here. So I helped you guys out. And that's why towards the end, let me fast forward real quick. In the end of the last Tribal, my whole gameplay was to protect my alliance, protect myself, but protect my alliance as well. And that's why I always told them, listen, if you guys if you break your promise first, I'm going to go after you. I never broke my promise first. That was my whole thing. And that's why when Jeffrey called me a villain, I didn't want to say I was a villain, because I was portraying myself as being, you know, a hero, like helping my alliance.
So do you think that you went on offense first, basically. So do you think that you going on offense first basically screwed up everyone else's game? Because you clearly caught LJ. He was unprepared for that one.
Well,
do you think it threw everybody else off their game too?
It had to, because what happens is when everybody's expecting anything in life, when you're expecting your plans to work out the way you have them planned out and mapped out in your head, and somebody throws a monkey wrench in that, it is so hard to try to regroup and come up with a new plan. And then 2 days later go by and you have a new plan, and then I do it again. I throw another monkey wrench in it. So at that time, and as mentally exhausted as you are, you know, the sleep deprivation, the starvation, the dehydration, it's so much easier just to say, you know what, fuck it, let's just go along with Tony's plan. You know, like at that point, they're like, you just give in. It's like every time you come up with a plan of your own, here goes this guy ruining it, or somebody else is ruining it. It's just so much harder to think on your own. It's the analogy I like to give people is like, when you're, like, for instance, you know how to get to, let's say, ABC Boulevard, and you're riding along with Andy. It's so much easier for you to say, which way, Andy? Which way, Andy? Should I go this way, Andy? And let Andy, the passenger, just tell you, yeah, make a left here. Oh, you should take this road this way. It's so much easier. I don't know if that ever happened to you guys, but every time I drive and I'm with passengers, I know exactly where I'm going, but it's so much easier for me to tell them, which way should I go? Should I make a left here or should I just go straight? And they tell me, oh, yeah, make a left here. And I do it because it's just so much easier. You don't have to think about it. You just let somebody else think for you. And that's what was happening over there.
So you were the tribe's GPS.
I was a navigation system.
Yeah, I think that, like, it happens, and it seemed like it was happening. I imagine when you're out there and all the stress, you try to seek for comfort. So if you can think to yourself, all right, I know the next 2 moves, so let's just take it easy. That's a trap that people fall into. I think that's what was happening with LJ, because it seems like he was planning on voting you out like 2 moves later, but you got the jump on him.
Yep, and you know, that's part of being a police officer too. Like I tell people, part of my job is to identify the threat. And, once you identify a threat, it's a race to the trigger. So obviously, I was getting to the trigger first, and, and that's all it was. Once I identified a threat, I said to myself, LJ's a big threat. I saw him talking to, obviously he was with Jeffrey from the beginning. So, I used to see them being, buddy-buddy. I saw him talking to Trish, buddy-buddy. I saw him talking to Cass, buddy-buddy. Later to find out he was making, final 3 deals with them, and I wasn't part of that final 3 deal. So, when I saw him doing all that talking and stuff, I said, you know what? He's going to be my biggest threat. He's going to be my biggest problem in my alliance. I'm not waiting for, to go along with paper strategy, when paper strategy is best to flip when you're at 7 or best to flip when you're at 5. I'm not going through that. I identified the threat. I need to act now. And that's exactly what I was doing, especially when the Minority Alliance was in Tribal Council advertising how much they wanted me gone. So at that point, I'm saying, you know what? I'm not going to give my alliance a chance to go work with these people. I'm going to work with the Minority Alliance first. And that's what I did.
And, do you get a chance to make that move if you didn't win that reward with Spencer and Jeremiah? Is that kind of like the way that luck intersects with strategy? If you had you were thinking of a way to get LJ, and then the game presented a way to do it.
Yeah, well, I needed those people. I needed somebody from the Minority Alliance. I mean, it was perfect because I didn't have to worry about anybody seeing me, running off to the woods. They knew I went on a reward challenge, but they don't necessarily know what I was talking about. But if they see me running off, sneaking off in the woods, talking to them, then they would know something was going on. So I needed the Minority Alliance to vote with me. I went to Trish, one of those days I went to Trish and I tried to pitch that idea to Trish. Hey, listen, Trish, LJ was telling me how he has some concerns about Wu, but all along it was me just acting paranoid in front of LJ. So LJ already told Trish, and they showed it on TV, you got to put out Tony's fire. He's paranoid. And that was my whole plan, to act paranoid. Because if I'm acting paranoid that I'm scared about Wu, LJ's going to put his guards down. He's not going to think that I'm going to strike him. He's like, Tony's so scared of Wu. He's not thinking that, Tony's going to hurt me. You know what I mean? That's the last thing he's thinking about. So that's why I was acting, every time I acted paranoid with somebody, it was all me acting. I was just pretending I was scared of somebody else so I could make them comfortable enough to put their guards down. And that's what happened with LJ. And I went to Trish and I tried to pull Trish on my side so she can go with me. But the second she gave me some resistance, I said, you know what, Trish, you're right. Let's just get rid of all the other numbers on the other side, and then we'll worry about LJ. Because at that moment, I wasn't going to keep pushing on and say, come on, just let's vote for LJ. We got to vote for LJ. He's a threat. I didn't want to do that because I know she would have went back to him out of panic, and it would have just blew up in my face. So at that point, I knew I had to go to the Minority, and I knew they would work with us because they had no choice. You're the next one is gone. You're going to have to work with me. And it was just perfect how it ended up, that me, LJ, and Jeremiah ended up going to that reward challenge, which was perfect. And by the way, I found another clue in the robes. I ransacked all the robes in the pockets, and I found a clue to the hidden immunity idol that Spencer already found. So I found so many clues that they didn't show. I found another clue when we won the donuts and the coffee. I don't know if you remember when we did the tribe swap, where Cliff was around the pole, holding the pole. We had to drag him. And we won those donuts and the coffee. I found the clue in the coffee. I was passing around the donuts with my right hand, and with my left hand, I'm inside the coffee jar looking for clues, and I found it. So
You're just a magnet for idols and clues.
You know what it is, man? And like I tell people, the idols are out there, the clues are out there. All you gotta do is look for them, and you'll find it. If you don't look, you ain't gonna find it. And that was part of my plan, was to make sure that nobody else found the clue inside the rewards, because then they would know that they're giving the clues out and everybody would be looking for it. So that's why I made sure that I looked through those first, because I didn't want nobody to have any kind of hint that that the rewards had clues in them. And that's why I just kept going through everything. Like when we went on the spa, that was the first thing I did. I said, let me go take a shower, guys, because I already checked the food on the table while we were eating, and I said, I'm going to jump in the shower real quick. So I said, oh shit, check this out, a robe. And I put the robe on, and I checked the pockets, and there was nothing. So I hung it back up, and I believe I was going to go back and sit down. I was like, nah, you know what, let me just shower. So I grabbed the second robe, and I put that one back on, walked in towards the shower, and that one had nothing in it. And I said, oh, this one stinks, man. This one's probably dirty. Somebody wore this one. I put it back. I took the third one, and then I checked the third one, and no clue was in there. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. And, Jeremiah Spencer over there eating their wraps, and I'm over there just laughing my ass off.
So I guess it just kind of goes back to everything. You're on offense where other people are relaxing. And so even with clues, that's how you get it done.
That's it, man. And like I said, they're out there. You just got to look for them. Of course, luck has a lot to do with everything, too. But, you got to work hard, too, to get lucky. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Well, did people start to get suspicious that you were running off and hunting for idols? Did anyone ever think like, oh, I don't know if we can trust Tony. He's always heading off on his own. Maybe he's looking for idols. You ever hear any chatter like that?
No, you know what it is? Since minute number one, it was like for the first 72 hours, not even kidding, I was rubbing 2 bamboo sticks together to try to start fire. So everybody knew that all I did was work around camp. In the middle of rainstorms, and it rained all the time there, I was climbing trees, cutting down palm fronds. I was gathering wood, firewood. I was building shelters. I was building a shelter over the fire. So I was always gone for 2-3 hours at a time, back and forth, back and forth. What I would do is I would mope around camp, like dragging my feet, kicking pebbles, picking leaves off the tree, just walking real slow, nonchalantly. And as soon as I turned the corner where they can't see me, pew! I would beeline right down to where I had to go build my spy shacks. Like they would think that I'm just moping around, like I'm just dragging my feet, But as soon as I turned the corner, I would run 100 miles per hour. There was a point where the cameraman lost the camera chasing me. They were trying to film me, and they tripped over a stump. The cameraman went to the right, the camera went to the left. It was hilarious. Are you guys still there?
Yeah. That actually gets to a reader question we had. Was like, did you piss the camera people off with all you running around?
You know what? They were upset because they were like, Tony, you gotta calm down. You gotta calm down. But they were loving it. They were loving the action because remember, like I said again, it was raining a lot. Most of the time, everybody was in the shelter trying to stay dry. Most of the time, and I was the only one just running around. So that's why I was telling you I have nothing but footage. They were filming me just doing all kinds of crazy shit, man. I was climbing on top of trees looking for idols. I was going through every tree hole looking for idols. I was going under a bridge looking for idols. I just didn't stop. I always gave them something. I never ever stopped. The spy shacks. I built four spy shacks. I built one in the shelter. I built one next to the fire. I built one next to tree melt, and I built one next to the water well. So I was constantly doing stuff.
Did those spy shacks help you out, do you think? Did you get, valuable intel?
Definitely. And again, like I tell a lot of my interviews, I tell them that production, I give them their props. They sacrificed footage that they knew fans would love to see, so they didn't jeopardize my game. Because, like the spy shack that was behind the shelter, there's no way that they could have been hovering over me with cameras and nobody would suspect anything. So they just left me alone. They knew I was there. They knew what was going on, but they left it alone. But the spy shack in the shelter was the main one that all right. Let's rewind this. As soon as we got onto the beach, I shook hands with Cliff. I shook hands with Wu. That's minute number one of the game. Hey guys, let's do this. Let's make it happen. We could run the show. This and that. All right. I swear. I promise. All right. We'll do this. All right. A day later, 2 days later, Cliff is walking up and down the beach with Lindsay. Hey, Cliff, what's going on, man? I see you walking with Lindsay. Hey, chill out, man. Chill out. Don't be paranoid, man. I'm just keeping them close. I'm getting information. All right, Cliff, what kind of information are you getting? It's just too soon. Yeah, it's still too soon. I'm still working them. And I'm saying to myself, all right, man, come on. Who are you beating on the head here? So I said I had to find out what the hell they were talking about. I called Wu. I said, Wu, come over here. I said, Wu, what's going on with Cliff, man? I'm getting a little nervous because I see him hanging on Lindsay too much, and I don't want him to try to pull a fast one on us. He's like, no. I talked to Cliff, and he's getting information from Lindsay. All right, Wu, what kind of information is he getting? He didn't tell me anything. I said, all right, Wu, you don't see what's going on? But Wu wasn't hearing it. He didn't want to hear it because Wu was playing with he wanted to be with the majority. So he saw Cliff had a tight bond with Lindsay. Lindsay had a tight bond with Sarah. And I guess Wu was right there with them, so that would have been those four and me and Trish. So once I built my spy shack around the shelter, because they were always sitting in the shelter talking, always, because it was raining. So I told Trish, I said, Trish, you and I in the bottom, I need your help. I told her, and then you guys seen it, the fans saw it. They said, listen, I'm going to tell you what I'm building there a little bit later. I'm going to show you what I'm building. That's when they first introduced the spy shack. Mm-hmm. So I told Trish, I said, Trish, I built a little spy shack in the back. I need you to go in there and start talking to them about what's going to happen when we lose the first challenge. They're going to think I'm down by the well chopping wood or whatever I do all the time, and I'm going to be hiding in the spy shack. Go in there and talk to them. So she would go in there and she was like, so what are you guys thinking? What are you guys thinking? If we were to lose, what are we going to do? Who's going to be the first one out, whatever. And they would talk to her and humor her and just bullshit. And then she would walk out and then they would talk and they were like, we got to get rid of Trish, right? And Tony's her right-hand man. So we need Tony for challenges and we need him to stay strong, but, we got to get rid of them soon. And I'm like, oh man, this guy just burnt me, So Cliff Robinson, created the monster that I turned out to be in the game. He did it because I was trusting, man. I went in there and I said, all right, Cliff, man, I trust you. You have no reason to lie to me right now. Why wouldn't you want to go to the end? We could run the show and go all the way to the end, and then we worry about who's going out. You know, and then when I seen it in 2 days, man, 2 days later, he formed a much stronger bond with Lindsay and just kicked me to the curb. And you know what? That was it, man. And that's when you heard the confessionals, me saying, you know what? He's the lion, he's the pride. I got to kill him, and then I'm going to kill his cubs. So that's where it all started from, that spy shack.
Frankly, I'm surprised that Lindsay just didn't tell Trish to her face that she was going to vote her out.
Oh, no. You know, there was, you know, that's the thing too. Again, 71 hours that you guys don't see. You know what I mean? There's, you know, we're friendly, we're saying jokes, we're playing, we're having fun. You know, you only see 40 minutes of 72 hours. So, you know, they only showed you the drama part. You know, the 5 minutes that Trish and Lindsay were fighting, but the other 5 hours, they're telling stories about each other, you know? So it wasn't that bad at camp. You know, it wasn't that bad. Yeah, the tension was there, but it wasn't always shown publicly.
And was it better at the original camp than when you guys swapped, or was it pretty much the same until Cliff went home?
No. When Cliff went home, that was it. You know, that was it. I mean, you know, Lindsay was holding, you know, she was holding that animosity towards Trish inside of herself. But when she lost Cliff, at that point, she's like, you know what? I have no hope in this game. You know, I have no hope. She was messed up right from the beginning. She had an ear infection where she was saying that she's dizzy. You know, she can't even she can't hold her balance. She had a stomach problem where she wasn't using the bathroom, so she was in constant pain for a few days. The rain made her toenails fall off. So she was having a real bad time out there. She was pretty miserable out there. And I guess when Cliff went home, that's it. That Cliff was her rock. You know, he was her rock. He was her only hope of getting further into the game. And once he was gone, she's like, you know what? I'm not going to stay out here and torture myself for the next 30 days and then get forwarded off to day 31. You know, that makes no sense. So I guess that was the camel that broke the straw that broke the camel's back was when Cliff went home. And on top of that, Trish was just egging her on, telling her, listen, this is how I feel about you, blah, blah, blah. She was like, you know what? I don't need this. I don't need none of this. I'm out of here. And that's what happened. It was a totality of the circumstances that made her quit the game. It wasn't just that one thing, that one heated argument with Trish. You know, it was just everything as a package.
It's actually
my opinion.
Now that I have somebody who's actually played the game on the line here, we've had conversations about quitting in the past, as all people who watch Survivor. John and I actually aren't as hardcore about it as other fans or, say, Eliza. But like, it sounds like you're a little sympathetic. Like, you can understand why somebody would feel that way. Am I reading that correctly?
Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. I despise quitters. I not quitters, not the person that quit, but I hate quitting. I despise quitting. You know, I hate that. Especially when you have over 30,000 applicants that are diehard fans that want to get on the show. But, you know, even putting that to the side, as a competitor, just to quit is just cheesy. It's like giving up on life. And there's no reason for it. But at the same time, I'm just, you know, I can picture in my head to why she did it. It's not justifying it, but it's an explanation. Mm-hmm. You know, an explanation is like, hey, listen, I'm not a sucker. I'm not going to sit out here if I truly believe I don't have a shot at winning. The same way when you apply for the show. If you truly don't think you have a chance of winning, don't apply for the show. Don't torture yourself. Don't go out there for 20 days and starve and get eaten alive by mosquitoes and ants if you don't really think you have a chance of winning. When I applied for the show, I said, listen, I'm out here to win. You know, I won. I got lucky and I won. That's one thing. But my mentality is I'm going out there to win. I'm not going out there for the adventure. I'm not going out there for the experience. I'm not going out there to challenge myself. I'm going out there to win $1 million. That's the only reason I'm going out there, because everything that has to do with Survivor, I'm totally against. I hate sweating. I hate the sun. I hate socializing with people that I don't even know. I hate all of that. I hate the jungle. I hate being barefooted. I hate not brushing my teeth, not washing my ass. I hate not being clean. I hate wearing the same clothes. You know, everything that I hated, I had to, it's Survivor. You know, I hate making bonds with people, looking them in the eye and lying to them. I don't like that shit, you know? I don't like that. And you have to do it. And that's why I said it in my pregame interviews. I said, this is the devil's game that we're playing in the devil's playground, trying to win the devil's candy, which is money. And money is the devil's candy. It's evil. And people will do shit like Survivor for the money. You know,
I like that you hate absolutely all those things, because it gives me hope for my ever getting on the show. Because
I was thinking the exact same thing.
let me tell you, man, and I'm being honest with you guys. I mean, everybody knows how I am. I get manicures, I get pedicures, I get massages. I'm a police officer. I always have to be clean cut. You know, I always have to have clean socks, clean underwear on, because you never know. I'm gonna get shot one day and die in the street. I want to be clean when somebody opens me up, and you know, I want my underwear to be clean, my socks to be clean, my toenails to be done, my fingernails to be done. You know, I want to be clean shaven, groomed, you know, manicured. And, you know, that's what I'm used to for the last 15 years. That's all I've done, you know, as a cop. And I'm out there, and I didn't brush my teeth. I didn't wash my body. I hate it. I hated all of it. Not eating. Today's, right now, if I don't eat in like 3-4 hours, if I don't put something in my body, I start to shake. My blood sugar drops. But when you go out there, it's like you just adapt. You just become a product of the environment. And I truly became a product of that environment out there. And I was, you know, I didn't expect it. But again, my mentality before going into the game was, I don't give a shit what I have to do. I'm going there to win $1 million. That's what I'm going there for. So whatever comes my way, I'm going to adapt and I'm going to overcome. And that's exactly what I was doing. And I made a conscious effort of that. I just kept saying to myself, don't let it beat you. Don't let it beat you. And even in life, like when I'm doing something and I get frustrated and I say, come on, Tone, don't let it beat you. And it means anything. It can mean anything, you know, just don't let it beat you. If it's raining, don't let it beat you. That's all I always say to myself, Tony, don't let it beat you.
Well, the smell or the being so clean thing brings up something that I've wondered too. How bad does everybody smell out there? Is everyone just terrible?
Yeah, you don't notice. No, you don't notice. The only people that notice are the producers when you're close to them and they start backing up from you. You know, you're like, oh shit, I must be reeking, because you can't tell.
Right, since everybody stinks, no one notices that everyone stinks. Okay.
Yeah, we all stink. We all stink the same. And you know, and another thing, let me tell you another thing. When you use the bathroom, when you go take a number 2 in the ocean, you don't have no toilet paper in the water to wipe your butt. You wipe your butt with your hands, man.
Right.
I'm putting my hand in between my butt cheeks, man, and wiping my dookie. You know, that's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I want to do in life, man. That's the grossest thing that you can think of, man. And then your nails are like 2 inches long, and you get a dookie stuck inside your nails. It's horrible, man.
Hey, well, you have two newborns. Trust me, that's not going to be the last time that happens to you.
Yeah, but that's different, man. You know, the newborns, you're all right. You live with that. But when it's your own, man, when it's your own stuff, you're like, oh man, gross. You know, it's like, but you know, again, man, that's the difference between somebody that's going there half-heartedly and somebody that's going there full-hearted. You know, and the ones that are full-hearted, you've seen us. We all endured the rain. We all endured the tornadoes, the hurricanes, the typhoons, whatever the hell was out there. But the ones like Lindsay, for example, she quit. So obviously she was half-hearted going into the game. She didn't think that was for her, but she said, let me give it a shot. That's not the mentality going to the game. Let me give it a shot. Your mentality's got to be, I'm going there to fucking win.
Yeah. And when you got to the challenges, did it just bring a smile to your face when you saw that you got to go against that Brains tribe? Because Andy's seen every season. I've seen most seasons. That was one of the worst tribes we've ever seen in challenges.
You know what, man? At the moment when I'm there, I'm not even thinking, oh, we got this. I was never confident in anything out there. I was never comfortable in anything. I always overestimated everybody else, and that's what made me just keep my guards up at all times. So I don't think there was any one. Like I always said to myself, please don't let them beat us. Please don't let the Brains beat us. No matter how horrible they were, you have a chance. If you have a shot to beat somebody, the possibility that if you beat somebody, it can happen. So that's why I was always like that. I was like, no matter how much they suck, I kept saying, please don't beat us. Please don't beat us. I did not want to go to tribal council. Man. That was, and then, you know, and again with the Cliff thing, when I lied to Sarah with the Cliff thing so I can get the numbers, because I had nobody on my side. It was just me and Trish. So I'm saying to myself, what's going to happen if we lose a challenge, man? So I had to make a move, and the move was to try to get my numbers in my own alliance. And that's why I lied to Sarah about Cliff and Lindsay to get the numbers. And then when Sarah tried to throw the challenge, I had no idea about that. I had no idea. I was clueless about that because there was talk about throwing challenges about previous seasons, and I was so against it. I was like, yeah, but that's so stupid. I would never want to throw a challenge. So I guess that's why, from her hearing me talk like that, that's why she didn't include me in the plan to throw the challenge with the Cliff.
And so why do you think it's a stupid idea to throw challenges other than the obvious?
I mean, that's the only reason. I mean, I do see where Sarah is coming from, because when you really genuinely feel somebody's gunning for you, your only move is to get rid of them first. So if you have to throw a challenge to get rid of them, then that's what you have to do. But you know, the way I look at it is like, you want your numbers. Even if they're against you in the beginning, you still want them. You don't want to go to tribal council no matter what. You don't want to go to tribal council. The more you can avoid going, and you've seen our team, man. 3 Braun went all the way to the end, you know, and that's only because we kept winning challenges in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't, if you don't go to tribal council, you're playing the game much longer than somebody else is.
Yep.
It's that simple. And I wanted to play. I didn't want to go home.
The easiest way to stay in the game is to not be where they vote you out. Yes.
Exactly. That and immunity. And that's why I kept looking for it. The way I look at it is like a video game. When you're playing Miss Pac-Man, you want that extra man. And that's what I was saying to myself. My idols are my extra men. I'm not going into this game with 1 man only. I want 2. I want 3 lives. And that's why it's no different from playing a video game. Your objective in that video game is to get as many extra men as possible so you can get further into the game. And that's what I was doing. I was like, I want those idols. You know, and when I came home and I watched Blood versus Water and they were burning the clues, I was cringing. You have no idea how much I was cringing when I seen them burning those clues to the idols. I'm like, are you guys fucking stupid? You're burning another free man. That's a free pass in the game, those idols. How can you not want them? I didn't give a shit who knew I was looking for those idols. I didn't even advertise to them. I was like, yeah, I was looking for the idol all day. These things are hard to find. I didn't care. I want those idols. And if you know I have an idol, even better.
Yeah, I think there was a few people that burned those clues that later on is like, man, I could really use an idol right now.
Yeah. It came back to bite some asses there.
Yeah, no, man, I was cringing watching them burn those clues. I was like, oh my God, they just burned an extra man. Because that's exactly what that is. That's an extra pass.
So speaking of immunities, going into the game, did you expect to actually win some of those challenges? Because it was weird. You were like the brawniest guy, and
you know what? I thought I was going to win all of them, man. I really thought I was going to be. Yeah, I swear to God. Because you know, like in the past challenges, I seen them holding up their weight. You know, like hanging off a rope, holding up. You know when they weigh you and they do 80% of your body weight, you got to hold the pole up, holding up the sandbags. You know, shit like that. Because as soon as we started the game and they said there's a brawn team, I was like, yes, there's going to be challenges where it requires fucking brawn. And you know what? None of those challenges required brawn, man. And that's why me and Spencer had fights, because I was like, listen, Spencer, I don't give a shit what you tell me. Before they started this whole theme of brawn versus brains versus beauty, they wanted the brains to win. That's it. Because at the end of every single challenge towards the end, it was all puzzles. So you know what? You guys, the brains, it's not like the brains tribe was out of shape and not athletic. They were all athletic. So they got the athletic part of it. And at the end, when you go through that whole obstacle, you get to the end, guess what? There's another piece for the brains to do. So I was telling Spencer, I said, listen, if it was for brawn, once you get to the end of the obstacle, it should have been through 20 push-ups or 50 chin-ups. All right? So
Yeah.
It wasn't geared for brawn, it was geared for brains. Because why are you going to put a puzzle for brawns that are supposed to be airheads? Why are you going to put a puzzle for beauties that's supposed to be airheads? Right? That's a stereotypical thing, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, there was never anything that was really like, carry this heavy thing, you know, that would be require brawn. Yeah.
Nothing. And you know what? If you're going to have a bronze team, why don't you gear it towards brawn? Gear a challenge or 2 towards brawn. Let's see what happens.
Well,
you know?
to be fair, they did give you guys a basketball challenge with like a former NBA All-Star. Just your team decided not to win that one is the problem.
Yeah, but you know, that, again, that's, you know, I don't know. I guess you could say that, but again, that was a team challenge. That was an individual immunity when you get to the end and you have a fucking puzzle waiting for you. And you know, and again, but back to like, you know, what I was saying, if you're going with the mentality into the show, like, let me give it a shot, you're going to lose. If you go with the mentality, I'm going to win, you're going to do good. So the same thing with the puzzles. I beat myself. Right before the puzzle, once I read, you know, in Treemail, it tells you, and at the end, you can have a puzzle or whatever it told you. That's it. I already lost it because I already psyched myself out that I'm not going to get it. You know, so once I go to the puzzles, I would just freeze. I would just blank out because all I was thinking about was like, who the hell's going to win this? And when if Spencer wins this, if Tasha wins it, what am I going to do? That's what I was thinking when I was doing the slide puzzle. Holy shit, what if Spencer wins this? What am I going to do now? You know, so I wasn't even thinking, I didn't even know what I was doing. So I beat myself.
Do you think you would have been better at the puzzles if you would have gotten like 3 hours of sleep a night, or?
You know what? I don't know, man. I don't think so, man. I don't think it had to do with the sleep. It just had to do with me psyching myself out, knowing that there was a puzzle. Because I was pissed off. You know, as soon as we read the tree mail, and, you know, and we knew there was going to be some kind of puzzle, I was pissed off. I was like, come on, man. You know, like, come on. So, you know, I was already, like I said, I already psyched myself out. So I got to the puzzle, regardless of how much sleep I had. Puzzles, you know, it's like, what is that, spatial stuff? It's called, you have to have spatial
relations or something, yeah.
Yes, yeah, something like that. You know, and I'm not, you know, I'm not a Rubik's Cube guy. I don't sit there and play with Rubik's Cubes. I don't do crossword puzzles or Scrabble or Jumbo or whatever the hell these guys do all day long. I don't do that stuff. What I do is go to the gym, I lift weights, and I do stuff like that. Why don't you know, if they had, let's say at the end of the obstacle course, they had a pamper changing contest, I would beat everybody, right?
Well, especially Spencer. He wouldn't even get near the kid, right?
Yeah.
You'd be like, children, they're my kryptonite.
I would make Spencer look like what Spencer made me look like at the end, right? That's what it would happen because I've experienced in that. So you know, you have to think that the brains are experienced in puzzle skills, no?
Yeah.
So that's what I was telling. That's what I felt. I felt like it was geared towards brains, you know.
All right. So when they start casting Survivor Legends season or whatever, you need to start working on puzzles, Tony. I think this is the one thing you can do different if you go back on the game.
And then I become a huge threat, bigger than I am, and then I'm targeted, just like Spencer was. And the second I lose, I'm out. So I don't want that.
But you'll have like 4 idols around your neck. You'll be good.
Exactly. That's what I want. But the immunity necklace, it can have it, man. You know, like when I started seeing how big, how crazy my alliance was going over Tasha, you know, and back to the Morgan vote off. Remember, we were supposed to vote off Tasha, and I sat there and I tried to convince all of them. I was adamant, no, we got to get rid of Morgan. We got to get rid of Morgan. And I didn't give them the real reason that she was a fourth beauty. She was fighting with Cass. Like I didn't give them the real reason. So there was one day where Tasha won immunity again, like twice in a row, and Trish pulled me over to tree mail. I told you, let's get rid of Tasha, and you didn't want to get rid of Tasha, and now she's going to beat us all. I told you. And then we had a big fight. And I don't know why I didn't make it, because I guess I didn't make it because they wanted, their story was to show that, you know, Morgan was lazy and she had to go. But my story was she had to go because she was a fourth beauty. The chances of her having an idol was slim to none, and her fighting with Cass. And that was my reasoning behind voting North Morgan instead of Tasha. But me and Trish got into a big fight over that, because when Tasha kept winning those challenges, Trish went nuts, and we were arguing. But that's what I'm saying. That was the point where it started like opening up my eyes and saying, holy shit, these guys are scared of people winning immunities. So what? They won 1 or 2 immunities. We're still like 20 immunities away from the end. And what do you care if they win 1 or 2? There's so many more people we can pick off. You know, but that's when I said to myself, you know what, it's better off that I don't win. Not that I was trying not to win. I wanted to win. I wanted to win every single challenge, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. And if you go back and watch the show, like towards the end, every single obstacle, I got to the end first. I got to all the obstacles. I went through all the obstacles first. The one with Tasha with the balls on the table, I pulled the bags out of the sand first. I got to the end first, to the table maze. The one with Spencer, where Spencer won the slide puzzle, I got there first, like 10 minutes ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
The one with Cass, where I didn't even know how to swim, to dive into the water, I had to climb down the ladder. I got to the puzzle first. Like if it was the obstacle was the end part of it, and I finished the obstacle, I would have 4 necklaces on my neck. It was just a puzzle that got me. So I wish they would have just left it. They would have left it as an obstacle only.
At least on 1 or 2 of the challenges, you know. Not every challenge needs to have a puzzle.
Exactly, but you know what happened in the beginning of individual immunities in the beginning, they were pretty balanced out. You know, you had a balanced one, you had a memory one, you had a stay on your calves one, you know, with the block on your head. And again, with that one, you remember that one where you had to stay on your tippy toes with the block on your head?
Yeah, we thought Spencer had an advantage because he had tall hair.
Yeah, well, you know what it is? It's man-made, right? So when they adjust to your height, the 2x4 that you're tippy-toeing on, if they're off by a half an inch or even an eighth of an inch lower on my end, and Spencer was a little bit higher on his end, he's going to have the advantage. And it's not, you know, done purposely. It's just, you know, it's just human, you know. It can never be precise where everybody's going to be on the same angle on their toes. You know, there's no way you're going to be on your fucking tippy toe for 2 hours. I don't give a shit who you are. You're not doing it. So the point is that, not all of them were created equal. You know what I mean? And it wasn't done on purpose. It's just, you just can't. Because when you're screwing, because there was a few times where they had to readjust them on some of us. They would be like, oh no, that one doesn't look like, you're on your toes enough. So they would lower it, just by hand in a screw gun. And they would just lower the 2x4 and screw it in a little bit lower. And there was one point where, some people might have had it a little higher and some people might have had it a little lower, So a challenge like that is really hard to make it fair.
All right, that's all for part one. Head on over to part two for more from Tony Vlachos.